Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Akil Stokes. Today, I'm going to talk to you about a trading skill that no one else is talking about. We're also going to talk about balance trades and the importance of shifting them in your favor. Now, before we get into it, I want to remind you guys, because I don't do it enough, I am a trading coach. We have an educational program. We have a great community. If you want to find out more about it, just head over to www.tier1trading.com. Also, we have a workshop coming up late November. There's a little banner thing you can click there to get put on the wait list or sign up for that, depending if it's sold out by the time you guys hear this or not. All right, let's hop in. We talk about practicing and perfecting, as much as perfect can be, the art of choosing the correct target locations, right? And did we nail the prediction or not? Whether you were able to get involved in the trade or not, did you nail the prediction? And trust me when I say, and it took me years to kind of value this in my trading journey, was that I spent a very, very long time being just off. You're always going to get situations where you miss by a little bit and you're mad and frustrated, but it was a consistent thing. And it was so consistent that it was no longer just kind of a fluky market gods don't like me. It was more of like, am I doing something wrong? And I made an effort because I didn't really put a lot of effort into my predictions, right? It sounds stupid right now, but it makes sense because as a newer trader, and I ask you guys this all the time, what is the most important thing that we want to find out, right? As newer traders, what is the most important thing that we focus on in the markets? What do we all want? We all want to know the strategy, but more specifically about the strategy. What part of the strategy? What part of the strategy? The entry, right? We have a workshop coming up in November, and I guarantee at some point we're going to be going over a chart, and everyone's, all the new people, what's the entry? What's the entry? How do I enter? How do I enter? And we invest so much effort into the entry. And I get it. I get why, because the entry on the outside looking in seems very important, right? It's like, well, okay, stops and targets, that's great. But if I can't get into a trade, do stops and targets really matter? And you can kind of make a case for that. You can also make a case what's the point of getting into a trade if you can't get out, whether for loss or for profit, at the right point? But we invest so much effort in the entry. And I now think, me 18 years later, that the entry is the simplest part, right? The entry is, for me, it's always rules-based. It's only one of two things, right? I can only enter one of two ways. So there's nothing really magical about the entry. What's more important is the prediction, right? And not just the prediction targets, we'll get to that later, but the general prediction, right? Can you correctly and consistently predict the area in which you think price is going to do the thing that you want it to do? I told you my mentor, as he got later in his trading career, he switched to a style where he just used limit orders. And I thought he was crazy. I'm like, dude, you've lost it. You finally lost it. We've talked about you losing it for a while, but today is the day when he came to me and said, I'm going all aggressive, just limit orders. I'm not waiting for anything. I'm like, you lost it. And he was like, and I'm like, why? What are you doing? We always talk about confirmation and waiting for the market to leave you clues. He's like, well, look, he's gotten to this. He's leveled up to a point in his career where he got so good at predicting levels. This is similar to advanced pattern formations, right? That he was very confident in that if the market made it to said level, it would do what he wanted it to do. And there was a time freedom in there too. He wanted to spend less time on the charts and stuff like that. So he didn't want to sit around as price entered different zones and waiting for higher high, higher closes and stuff like that. He wanted to enjoy his life, which I get as well. But he was like, hey, I'm going to get really, really good at predicting specific levels. I'm going to put my orders in that level, my stop below or beyond those levels. And if price gets there, it should do what I think it's going to do. And I'm like, okay, man, you lost it. Started calling people to mental health coaches. He's gone off the deep end. But it worked out for him. He got really, really good at the predictive process, right? So it's not just the predictive process in the zone, the area, the location of where you expect price to do what you want price to do, but it's the target as well. And for me, when it got to that point where missing out by a little bit and being frustrated, because I told you guys this, right? I don't really care about losses, right? I don't really get mad about losses. I've lost enough times that I'm numb to it. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. It's part of the game. It's part of the equation. What gets me pissed, what really grinds my gears, is when I enter a trade, when the market does the thing that I expect the market to do, and I'm feeling all good, my ego's inflating. Yeah, super trader, right? But then it doesn't do it enough for me to actually make money, right? That is the worst feeling in the world. When you do everything right, the market moves, you're like, guys, we're going bullish. 61 even, getting bullish. Watch me, trust me, not crazy. Price goes to 61 even, starts going bullish. Your targets are at 62 even, price turns around at 62.90s, and you're SOL, out of luck, right? It reminds me of a time growing up when I learned a very valuable lesson, right? Grew up in Philadelphia, not the greatest place in the world. And my best friend, who he is a professional at fighting. He got into fights like every day. He put me up on game. He said, Akil, if you ever get jumped, meaning like it's you, but then there's like multiple enemies around you. He said, the first thing you need to do is understand that you're not going to win that fight. Like, you are not winning. This isn't one of those kung fu movies where each of them just sit around until you can hit one at a time. I never understood that. Why does that happen in kung fu movies? It'll be like 20 people, but only one attacks at a time. And it's like, what do you like? You have the advantage. You're defeating the purpose. He said, that's not going to happen in real life. He said, in real life, they're going to get you and you're going to get into the ground. You're going to get kicked and stopped. He said, all right, so you got to accept the fact that you're going to lose, right? But here's what you can do. He said, you find one person, preferably like the most nervous and scared looking person, and you just hit them in the face and then hit that fetal position and take whatever's coming to you. I said, well, that doesn't sound like a good strategy. Like, I'm still getting kicked and beat and stopped. He's like, yes, yeah. But that's going to happen anyway. I said, go on. But the next day, I said, okay, go on. When all those people are bragging and excited about, hey, we beat up this kid and blah, 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 there's going to be this one person that just can't join the conversation because he's the one that got punched in the face. And lo and behold, the next time I got jumped, I tried it, right? Some kids stole my basketball court. They did it the day before. Me and my dad caught them and ran them off. So they just did the next day anyway, right? Really salty. We were really like empowered. Like, yeah, we fought. We didn't fight them, but like we chased these kids off, and then they just stole it the next day anyway. I'm like, oh man, that feeling of goodness didn't last too long. So of course, young dumb Akil went over to the other side of the tracks to get it back by myself, right? Because young and stupid, revenge trading, some may say. And I went over there. The sun dimmed. And it became like a kung fu movie. I was surrounded by a bunch of individuals, right? They may or may not have been wearing gis, karate outfits, right? And I remembered the advice my friend gave me. And I scanned it. And I said, who looks the softest? And I hit him with a flying punch. Boom! Hit him. And then curled up and took whatever came to me. I don't know if that guy was sad the next day, but, felt good about myself. So like, it's the worst feeling in the world to do everything right and miss a target by a little bit. It's the second most feeling in the world to have all your friends beat someone up and you be the one that got beat up by the single guy. But ever since then, the target taking thing, not the fight, I didn't become a trader that young. I started focusing more on predicting targets better because I didn't really spend a lot of energy predicting targets. I was just like, price will go down here. I didn't really think like the other trader. I was just like, I don't know. I was putting in like random numbers again, like, 62 even. That sounds good. Let's do it. Right. You guys know how it is. And as soon as I started getting better with my predictions, I started making more money. I was more accurate with my trades. And I started noticing that I was making, I always do my comparisons with my past and previous results to my future or my current results. And and I was just hitting on different trades. There were, let's say I took 100 trades during the year, and let's say like maybe 10 of them should have been wins, but lost because I was a few pips away, or like one level below because I didn't take structure into account. I was now capturing those 10 extra trades. This is the similar thing in sports. We call it like game management, where you're going to win a lot of games in sports. You're going to lose a lot of games in sports, but then there are going to be some games where like you blow it, where it's like you should have won, but you did something stupid at the end. And the key between a good team and a great team, Arsenal, right, is you don't give away those balance games. Those balance games are the ones that can go either way. You win those, like Man City, where they don't play good but they still win, versus Arsenal, where they get red cards and lose them. And so that's what I was doing in my trading. I had those balanced trades, right? I'm going to have my winners no matter what. I'm going to have my losers no matter what. But there were those balanced trades that could go either way. And in the past, they were tipping over into the losing side. What I did was I re-tipped them over to the winning side, and it made a small consistent change to my trading. It wasn't like a big, I didn't go from like a 20% ROI to like a 50% ROI, anything like that. But it bumped me up by 5%, which is massive over time. So, always take pride in your predictions, put energy into mastering the art of making a prediction. It seems small, but any loser or break-even trade that you can turn into a win is a massive help to your account. Ran over. Stuart said, I have kind of a similar story. I found my levels. Rant not over. We're back. I have kind of a similar story. I found my levels for reversals were really good, but because I needed a 1-to-1, I could hardly ever get involved. Ooh, that's something I still go through now, Stuart. Then I started testing not needing a 1-to-1 to enter, and found out the win percentage was enough for the strategy to be profitable. That's another great point. My only example of that is the cipher, where the cipher is not a 1-to-1 risk reward, and I hated it. And then when I was forced into testing it, because Darren invented it, and we had to make sure Darren wasn't going crazy because he gave us all these weird numbers. And I found out the same thing you found out, Stuart, that like, hey, like I was brainwashed to thinking, need to have a 1-to-1, must have 1-to-1, cannot trade without a 1-to-1. Like it was this hardcore rule in the sand, right? I'm sure many of you guys are like that. Many of you guys only require a 1-to-1 because you've heard it a million times out there that you need the 1-to-1. You can't have an inverse risk reward ratio. That's stupid, crazy talk. Burn that man, right? You guys remember the rant from a few days ago. I'm trying to work on my voices, I promise. But yeah, I realized that, man, I ran numbers because this is the first time I was like you. I never even thought to test anything less than a 1-to-1. I'm like, this is stupid. And I ran numbers on the cipher. I'm like, well, we got an inverse risk reward ratio and it still hits. And this is the same exact thing that Stuart's saying, right? I'm glad the rant continues, Stuart. Stuart was leaving money on the table simply because he needed a 1-to-1, or he thought he needed a 1-to-1. Did he actually need the 1-to-1? Maybe it's good to have it. Maybe he prefers it, but did he need it? Well, the numbers say otherwise. And Stuart tipped the balance from trades that were out there to be grabbed. Out there. Free money out there to be grabbed. Take me, Stuart. Take me. That sounded weird. I hope I don't get you in trouble. I hope no one's listening, Stuart, and you don't get in trouble for that. But that's what the bags of money are screaming. And Stuart's like, no, not going to take you, not a 1-to-1. But why not? I'm right here. And Stuart said, yeah, why not? Why aren't I taking him or her? And Stuart said, you know what? These are good trades. Take the money. Take the money. Yeah, that is great. That is great. Yeah. Now again, there's a psychological element as well, right? So if psychologically you can't handle being in an inverse kind of 1-to-1 risk reward ratio, that's a different story. So always take the psychological part into account too. But if you're fine with it psychologically, then yeah, go for it. Go for it. Ann says, looks like a potential bearish cipher on New Zealand dollar. Ann's like, all right, let's get back to seeing some trades here. But good stuff. Good stuff. I found there were many mental benefits of not needing one-to-one, no longer forcing targets. Now, that's another good point as well. Last point, I promise. Stuart said one of the mistakes that he found he was making, and this is something that we see a lot too, is that so Stuart required a one-to-one. And in trades that didn't offer the one-to-one at the level where he should have had the one-to-one, instead of being like, I can't take the trade because it's not a one-to-one, Stuart was doing this. I'm going to insert another voice here. Well, if I just move my target a little bit higher, then I have the one-to-one. It still ended up being the same voice. I'm very bad at this. Gosh, it always morphs back into that same voice. It started as like, I don't know, I'm working on it. But that's a good point. He was forcing trades to meet the artificial need that he required. And when he was forcing trades, he was putting targets at levels that weren't actually going to be hit. So now he's losing trades. Where he's like, man, if I just put the target where I think price is going to go, which seems simple and stupid, but we're humans, we don't do the right thing. If I just put the target where I thought price was going to go, and I don't worry about stretching it out for an artificial reason, I'll make money. But instead I'm losing money because I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right, let's get back to the cipher. This is the good stuff, right? You wanted the good stuff. I gave you the good stuff. And you know what? If you think the Trading Coach podcast is the good stuff, let me know. You can leave me a comment below, or if you haven't done so already, leave the podcast a rating and a review. It is the best way to support what I'm doing here. It motivates me. It makes me feel good. It inspires me to produce more episodes for you 3 times a week, which is sometimes a hassle, but we get it done because you guys enjoy it. All right, until next time, plan your trade, trade your plan. Take care.